me about it. Come on, let's talk about it. Change up the things you see. Open your mind to possibilities. Find your power, passion, and your purpose. You know it's time for you to walk in greatness. Let's murder mediocrity. Slay your goals, live out your dream. Right now. Inspirational perspective.
Taking the leap, whatever leap you're supposed to take, whatever leap you're supposed to make. That's what we're talking about today, and I believe these two ladies who have taken leaps in their lives, in particular in their careers, are going to inspire you. For those of you who are regular listeners, you already know my story of taking a leap, and sometimes I think it's, when people get used to you, you know how they're like, oh, well, that's Linnell.
Right.
Right? Like, okay, well, of course, Nicole did that. Yeah. Of course, you could do that, girl.
Yeah. Right.
And they'll disqualify themselves. So I like for people to hear other people's stories.
For sure.
Of taking their leaps so they know that they can take a leap too.
Yeah.
So, in the studio with me this morning, I'll have the ladies introduce themselves. I have two phenomenal business women, CEOs. I'm lucky for a lot of reasons. Like, how you just get two CEOs to come on your show? Like, you mind showing up Sunday to talk about transitions? So I'm excited about today's show. And two big time opportunity makers. So, Sonia, why don't you start first? This is your second time on the show?
Second time
on the show? Okay.
How lucky am I?
Yeah. So remind the listeners who you are and tell them a little bit about what you do.
Absolutely. So my name is Sonia Payton, and I am the founder and owner of Decadent Flavor. Decadent Flavor is the only sweet and savory food truck and catering company in the Chicagoland and Northwest Indiana area. We help turn your existing event into a memorable experience with our live dessert stations and Carnival Eats with a twist.
Well, Nicole, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
So my name is Nicole Johnson-Scales, and I am the CEO of NJS Consulting Group, which is a boutique leadership development consultancy where we essentially partner with organizations to unleash the power of their employees. And we do this through executive coaching, leadership facilitation, team facilitation, ultimately with the outcome of increasing the confidence, empowering employees, increasing their leadership efficacy, ultimately leading to great impacts for the business and the organization. So I am excited to be here. It's all fun to call yourself a CEO, right?
Okay,
Simon?
Absolutely.
And they was like, what you call yourself? He said executive coach. I was like, no, sir.
I know that's right.
I'm a CEO.
I know that's right.
I'm a CEO. I love it. I love it.
That's right.
Now, here's the thing. It's fun to call ourselves CEO, but let me just ask you: is it easy? Is it easy running your own business?
Absolutely not.
You said no. You don't.
Absolutely not. No.
No, Nicole. What do you say? Is it easy running your own business?
I think it's a lot of fun. But there is just a lot of stuff that I have had to learn, and I'm learning as I go, and I'm flying the plane, learning it at the same time.
Exactly.
But that was part of the reason why I wanted to leave, though, right? Because I was ready for a challenge. And so every day that I get to be a CEO and I get to learn something new about my business and learn something new about myself, it's exciting. So it's hard. It's hard to stay at the level that we need to stay at, right, at that strategic level, particularly when you're first starting out, because you get all into the weeds and
you almost have to be
doing
in the weeds.
Work.
Yes,
and so it's just kind of like, what's that balance of making sure I've got the right view to grow the business sustainably,
for sure,
but then also continue to do the things we need to do to grow the business, execute the business, and all that good stuff.
No doubt. So how long have you ladies been in business? And you all have very different businesses.
Yeah.
And so, Sonia, how long have you been in business?
So for Decadent Flavor, I've been in business for 8 years. It'll be 9 years. But prior to this, I was a cosmetologist for 25 years. So I've, been in business my whole life by myself, pretty much.
But and I want to talk about that. One of the things we want to talk about today is that transition from cosmetology to now, I mean, the culinary arts.
Yes,
in many ways. That's a...
Big
I mean,
difference.
you went from doing people's hair to making their food.
Right.
Like,
it's no correlation at all. Yeah.
Like, okay, what about hair made you think you could cook? Right now, we're gonna get into that. And by the way, Sonia can cook. Like, let's be clear.
Thank you.
Let's be clear. But you were also a talented cosmetologist. I mean,
absolutely.
In many ways.
Yeah.
And so you've been in business for a while. Nicole, what about you? Like, how long have you been in business and what were you up to before?
So prior to starting my business, I was a bank executive. So I was part of the executive team for a regional bank here in Chicago, leading the bank's community development strategy. So all of my work was really around how do I leverage the resources of the bank on behalf of underserved communities that look like mine growing up. And so I had really, for a long time, been trying to figure out what was next. And you know, the great thing is you and I were friends beforehand. So,
we were.
You know, when we get on the phone, I'm like, Lindell, I don't know what I want to do next. You know, so you would be kind enough to, you know, give me some exercises. Well, let's try this, Nicole. You know, hit me up on Friday. And I was just still really stuck. And so it was through our partnership and coaching that really just kind of gave me the courage to really say what it is that I wanted to do. Yeah. And I, again, just had been for years just trying to figure out what I wanted to do next. Had no clarity, engaging my network, like I'm ready to do something different. They're like, well, girl, what you want to do? I'm like, I don't know. I can do a lot of stuff, right? So how can people advocate for me if I'm not even clear about what it is that I wanted to do? And so you and I had worked together, and I remember we were doing like our purpose work. And you would say, and I remember it distinctly. I'm sitting on the couch, and I'm, going over my little homework with you. And you were like, Nicole, it sounds like you want to be a coach. And I'm like, I know. Saying it out loud was scary. I already felt it.
Always.
I already knew it.
Yeah.
But saying it out loud was extremely scary. And then once I said it out loud, and now there's a different level of commitment, right? Because it's just like, I've said it. You said it first, and then I had to agree, out loud, having the courage.
But that's just what I remember that conversation.
Remember?
I'm like, that's what it sounds like. Yeah. And you were already, what was interesting is you were already doing the work.
Right, exactly. But not
and hadn't
even
admitted it to yourself.
Yeah, just hadn't admitted it to myself. And so started the business in 2019. Went through because I was still working full time, so got it approved through ethics. Wanted to stay, within my integrity. And then 2020, it was really clear that was the time for me to move forward. That was really going to be my next step. Yeah. And so made the leap in for my birthday. Yeah, that's my birthday gift to myself in 2021. Nice. I had to resign. It turned out it was on International Women's Day too, so that was kind of a lot going on to affirm your move. It was my birthday, so that was my birthday gift to myself. Nice.
I love it. And 2020, when you look at research in terms of individuals who made transitions, it seems like that year where people said, you know what, it's the time for me.
Absolutely.
You left in 2021, but what I'm hearing is part of how you made your transition is you started your business, had conversations, because you were a corporate executive. I mean, and I think people need to understand that. I say that all the time, like it's very difficult to leave corporate America at that level because of the amount of disclosures you have to make.
For sure. Yeah, literally I had to go through the ethics committee. I had to talk to them about what I was going to do.
I'm not competing with y'all.
I'm not competing with you. I'm not going to be coaching clients. I'm not going to be all of that stuff. I had to go ahead and make sure that I disclose all that stuff so that I could, be in my first of all be in my integrity, and then also just be in alignment of what I needed to do as an executive. Yeah. But of course, you go out on LinkedIn, you let people know what to do, and then you got the haters reaching out to HR, talking about
tell me about it.
You know what Nicole is doing, and and I remember the conversation with my HR partner. And of course, I had already let them know, and he's like, "Yeah, I just want to let you know people are saying stuff." And I was like, "Well, you know what? Let them know too. I'm an adjunct professor, so I'm going to be posting about that as well." So before you hear, you're going to see it too. It's coming, right? And so it's just like, you can't. You knew it was coming, and you just for me, it was just like, how do I act? I want to make sure that I'm in my integrity. I want to do things the right way. If this is something that God is leading me to do, then I can't be tricky. Right.
Exactly.
I need to do what it is that I need to do, and do it in a way that aligns with who I am.
How scary was that for you? I mean, to have those type of conversations. Also understanding as an executive, this is the other piece that people, I think, sometimes don't understand, is they could say, you know what, Nicole, this is not going to work. Mm-hmm. They don't need much notice either, because you basically gave them the reason why they could let you go.
Right.
And it would stand up in most courts, right? Like she let us know her attention's divided. Right. I mean, they can come up with any scenario or a narrative, right, to suit. So how scary was that for you to actually step forward and say, this is what I intend to do?
I think the way that I positioned it is it's just something I was expanding who I was and wanted to use my talents in a different way. And you do have the risk that they're like, oh, okay, well, Nicole is going to be looking for another role. Yeah. But I got to be honest, I was like super faithful because I felt like God was ordering my steps. And so it was just kind of like, you know what? Even if they do say, "All right, well, now,
then that's that.
Yeah. Then it's that. Then that just means God wants me to do this sooner, right? So it was really around me just kind of stepping out on faith. But I do remember when I got the call from the ethics lady, and I was like going into a meeting. I was like, "Oh my gosh, this lady gonna tell me no. She's gonna tell me no." And she was like, "Everything is fine." And I was like, "Right, God, my bad. I doubted you. I'm doubting you." But it was really around just the faith, and I just felt like this was something that God was leading me to do. And
that's awesome.
Nice.
That's awesome. You were a banker. You transitioned into coaching and consulting. You were a cosmetologist, Sonia.
Yes.
And you transitioned into the culinary arts.
Yes.
I want to talk about that transition itself, right? We'll get more into the psychology and what was happening for you mentally when you made the transition, but like what did you notice about making that shift? Like some things you had to shore up, plan for, et cetera. Like for me, one of the things about your story, Sonia, I find interesting is, was there overlap between so kind of like Nicole, there was some overlap.
Yes.
So you were doing hair and making food.
Correct.
And then at what point did you decide, all right, I'm not taking, because that had to be a scary moment. At least I believe, no more Saturdays.
Right.
Because that's the big day, right?
That's the big day.
That's the big day.
Look, he know that's the big day, right? Okay. Yes.
That's the big day.
Right.
So no more Saturdays.
Right.
Like I'm about to do this. Understanding that people are going to find, sometimes they're going to find new beauticians.
For sure.
But also the pressure from clients, because I know if my barber was like, yo, Linnell, and him and I, he probably listening, right? Him and I have a 20-plus year relationship. I mean, I started going to him when I was 19.
Exactly.
So I feel like if he's going to make a career transition, he has to check in with me.
Right. You got to agree.
You need permission, bro. Right, yeah. I need to give you the green light.
Right.
What is this you doing?
Yes.
Right? And I'm sure a lot of your clients felt the same way.
For sure.
So how did you navigate that entire transition?
No, so what you just said, you said a lot, but what you just said is, your clients become family, basically. Like, I started doing hair and became a cosmetologist when I was 15. I took it up in high school. Yeah, so took it up in high school. And so basically the clients that I had, a lot of them were like family, like more than, I have been doing them for like 20 plus years, the whole time that I was a cosmetologist. And so that transition definitely was scary and hard. But in the beginning, though, before I even started the process, I had made a promise to myself that basically once my income exceeded my new income with Decadent Flavor exceeded my, income as a cosmetologist, I was going to let it go. And so that happened, I want to say, it happened pretty quick, actually. It happened probably about the end of a year and a half, going into my second year. That's when Decadent Flavors income had exceeded my hair income. And so at that point, I was like, okay, it's time for me to go.
I made the right decision.
Yes.
Right,
No,
like
for sure.
I won't be standing behind this chair anymore.
Yes.
Right, yeah.
But the thing is, though, because I was so attached to it, it was kind of like a marriage, though, honestly. You know what I mean? Like, it was really near and dear to my heart, and it still is. I have no desire, let's be clear. So no clients call me right now and say, hey, can I get in tomorrow then, since it's still in your heart? No, it's in my heart. Okay, it's just in my heart. And so anyway, so it was hard, though, to break away from it, even though I had exceeded the goal and the monetary goal and got to where I wanted to be. And so anyway, I just kind of slowly, basically, the clients did see the transition. I was very transparent with them that I was definitely going to step out or whatever. So I just kind of start showing up less and less and just kind of letting them know that they should start finding, someone new, to take over or whatever. But like I said, they were definitely family. We still have that love and that bond even to this day, where they can call me or I can call them or whatever. But, during that transition, though, it's a lot of figuring out, you know what I mean? Figuring things out with the new business. You still, because earlier you said, hey, was it hard? And it absolutely was hard. You're trying to juggle, two careers. It's kind of like getting a divorce and then stepped into a new relationship, basically. You know what I mean? So it was like kind of that tug of war situation, on your heart, your
emotions. I know
emotions.
Ken in the car right now like, huh? What?
Yes. But that's just the relationship.
I know, I get it. I just got to mess with you. Right.
Yeah,
right.
But, basically it was definitely a hard transition, figuring it out. And then culinary was new. I didn't go to school for culinary arts. I went to school.
So what made you think that you could do this then?
Yes. So I was explaining to Nicole when we were out there in the lobby, I was explaining to her that when I was in my 20s, I had the love for, cooking and everything, right? Like I was a late bloomer when it came to cooking. I didn't even start cooking until like right before I got married at 28 is when I started cooking. So I come from a family of 10. And so when it came to cooking, I wasn't at the top of the list. I didn't have to do it. And so anyway, because I was about to get married, I was like, let me pick up some books and, and it's so funny because all my siblings was like, are you reading a book for cooking? Like, what are you doing? You know what I mean?
Like, we just do this.
Right, exactly.
Right,
exactly.
we just do this.
Right. And so anyway, I'm getting these books, so I'm barbecuing and all this stuff, but I was just really, I loved it. Like I even to this day, I could go outside and it's a stressed out day. I could go like fire up the grill, have me a glass of wine, and it's like I'm in my happy zone, in my happy place or whatever. So
you love cooking?
No, I do. I absolutely love cooking. And so I thought about going to culinary school, but at the time, for some reason, I thought like, oh, I'm too old for this. Like in your 20s, right? You thinking I'm too old. But I thought I was too old. But also, I didn't want to go back to school either at the time because I was making all this money, doing hair. So fast forward, when I was in that transition, it took me 5 years, literally 5 years, to figure out what my next move was going to be. And so my parents used to always take us to the Illinois State Fair. And I started taking my kids and everything as well, once I got married and stuff, and we made it a tradition. And I was literally standing in front of this mini donut trailer, and it's like I had this epiphany. Like God came and tapped me on my shoulder and was like, hey, what if you brought these carnival treats to like people's weddings, corporate events, things like that? And I was like, man, this is a really good idea. And so my mind got to going, the ball started rolling. So I started out doing the live dessert stations at weddings and corporate events and things like that. Fast forward, I got the food truck in 2019. And then
which is a whole, I think, something else we should cover.
Sure.
Investment in your business.
Oh, absolutely.
Because that's,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think people realize that half of entrepreneurs fail in the first year.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And then within most of them are done. Let's say 70% of those that started by the third year, they're done too.
Yes.
Like they fail.
Yes.
So entrepreneurs fail. I believe one of the reasons they fail so often is because they don't invest in the business.
Correct.
And you did that.
Yeah.
And
for
so
sure.
I just, man, wow. There's something that you shared that I want to check in with Nicole on. One was you're doing what you love. Like, so you transition from doing hair to do something that you absolutely love.
Yes.
And I think that might be key.
Yes, for sure.
For a lot of people just to kind of sit down and talk about. Nicole, what about you? Like, I mean, do you love, in contrast to what you were doing, do you love what you're doing today?
Yes, and before I answer that, can I build on something that Sonya
Please
said?
do.
One of the things that was really difficult for me in my transition was identity.
Oh, man.
And it was
Talk
really
about
around, I have been a corporate executive for years. And so how do I leave that identity to embrace a new one?
Well, and talk a little bit more about that, because I experienced the same thing in terms of identity. Like, as a corporate executive, like, what was your title?
So I was Senior Vice President of Community Development.
Doesn't that sound so sexy?
It sounds sexy, right?
Right.
I mean,
right.
and it's so, and when you say that, people are like, oh my goodness,
Right.
Yes,
tell me about what you do.
Right.
Yes,
And they're
yes,
so
yes.
interested in
Yes,
you.
yes.
Right.
And then when you say the company's name, which you don't have to say,
Right.
But when you say the company's name, they're like, oh my,
Right.
It's like,
Right. Yeah.
oh my.
Right, yeah.
And so you start to, like, that becomes a part of, like, the clothes you wear.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
And how you show up.
Right.
And how you feel.
Right.
And so that identity piece is, how did you overcome that?
I think it was really thinking about, because at first it was just kind of like, oh my gosh, I'm leaving all these different resources. This is the kind of impact that I have. I've got this, great view from a leadership perspective. And so it really just became, okay, but you want more and you want different. So are you going to hold on to something that you've already done and you've already experienced? Or are you going to step into this kind of next phase of greatness?
Right.
And so it really became like, well, girl, senior vice president, but now you can become CEO of your own company.
Right.
That's sexier.
Yes.
Right. And
You
so it
better
was
say it.
really
That's
like,
right.
first of all, recognizing that, when you think about a CEO, you think about a CEO from a large corporate perspective.
Yeah.
But it's just like, no, I am the chief executive officer for
Right.
my business that is
Yes.
going to run, that is going to scale and is going to have really great impact. So yes, I'm a CEO. So it was really around me getting real comfortable with this identity that I was going to step into. And then I began to really think about, okay, so who is this new CEO, Nicole? What does she do? What's her day look like? How does she spend her time? How does she dress? And how is that different than what I had before?
That's
Yeah.
a whole identity shift
Yes.
as well.
Yes.
My wife used to be like, "Hey, corporate." When I was in corporate America,
Yes, yes.
I'd be walking out the door and I had that button down with the slacks
Yeah.
and the little the shoes that you in corporate that you can slide by with, like the
Right.
the rubber bottoms
rubber
that still
bottoms,
look
yeah.
executive,
Yes.
and she'd be
Yes.
like, "Hey, corporate,"
Yeah.
kind of give me a look like, so your wardrobe is so predictable, right? And now it's like, I mean, I wear black shirts every day.
Yeah,
You wear
yeah.
whatever you want.
Yeah.
Which is still predictable, but it's not corporate.
That's
yes,
right.
yes.
But
Totally
no,
right.
it's an identity shift.
It is.
Complete identity
is.
shift.
And so it was nice because I had decided in November that I was going to leave. So it gave me time to release that. It really gave me time. When I quit in March. So I had, I don't know, was that 6 months, 5 months to
Right.
really kind of just step into, release what I knew,
Yeah.
right? Get comfortable with that, and then just step into who I wanted to become.
Yeah.
And so that time was helpful for me because it was just kind of like, all right, so do you want to hold on to this, or do you really want
To expand.
this?
Right.
That's
Yeah.
right.
What
yeah.
was the first time, and I want to hear this from you too, Sonya, because this happens. What was the first time when you shared with somebody your new title and their response to you? Like, how did that work for you? I remember mine didn't go so well. Maybe yours went better. But what was the first time, like even for you, Sonya, where you're like, oh, no, I don't do hair anymore. I'm the owner of Decadent Flavor, and we do food. And like
Right.
the look on the face, like what was that experience like for you the first time you shared that?
Yeah, it was actually with a close friend, and she was like, well, maybe you're supposed to just do this like temporarily, to kind of get you over the hump. And I was like, no, no, this is what I supposed to do. Like one thing you said earlier, And it was, you know, I literally have this at my location on the wall. I wish I had the picture. But I have it, you know, painted on the wall as soon as you walk in the door. And it says, do what you love.
Yeah.
And the rest will follow. And I believe that with, like, all my heart. I once loved hair, which is why I did it for 25 years. But when I fell out of love with it, it had to go. You know what I mean? And so my new love became, you know, the culinary arts industry. And now it's like I'm definitely, you know, happier than ever. It's funny because I have this new business venture going on we'll talk about later. But I'm just like, it makes the new business venture, it makes what I do now like I could do it in my sleep. It's like, I was like, it's like a reprieve, you know, when I revert back. It's like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, this is my happy place, you know, but anything new, of course, is hard. It's hard work, you know.
Always.
Yeah.
And to the point, the individual who said that to you, they believed every word they said.
For sure.
And they, I mean, what I found too is they'll like, you know, you're making a mistake.
Right.
Even if you're like, no, I prayed about it.
Yeah.
This is my purpose. They be like, well, now hold on, listen now.
Right.
Listen.
Exactly.
Like,
I know better than you.
Exactly. Like,
now,
are you making the right move?
Come on now.
Here?
Now, I love you, and I think you need to get your feet on the ground.
Right.
And so I love where you're like,
Right.
What about you, Nicole?
You know, it wasn't bad. And when I first stepped out, I was really just saying I was like an executive coach. So that felt comfortable. I think for the most part, when I was letting people know that I was leaving, I only had one person that was just like, oh, it's just so saturated. The majority of the people were like, well, my God, that's what you do. Like, of course, that's what you're going to do next, right? Because unbeknownst to me, that's how it was showing up anyway.
Yeah.
And so I think the person who gave me the hardest time, if you will, was my husband, because my husband would hear me on these Zoom calls in the beginning. Right now, I'm in a position where I can hire people, which is great. But in the beginning, I would talk about we and my team, and he'd be like, I get off that Zoom call. He was like, "Who is your team?" I was like, "You, you on my team, right?"
Right.
And I'm speaking about what I'm growing to, not where I am today.
Right.
But I felt comfortable with it, and I think again because I had that time to shift. I had taken. When I resigned, I took a month off and I went to Miami.
Good.
And I just decompressed and that was in April. And then when May, so I had planned on when May came, you know, I'm going to come and I'm going to hit it real hard, right? And then I got back home and I hit it real soft. And then I started questioning myself like, oh my God, maybe I don't even want to work. I was like, I don't feel like reaching out to my network and getting back into the, you know, to the swing of things. And my husband was like, well, babe, you know, like you've been commuting for 3 hours a day. You've had evening events and like you're tired. Just take the month. And so by the time June came, I was ready to hit it hard. But it was this, you know, this moment of panic. Like, you know, did I do the right thing?
Correct. Yeah.
Maybe I just don't want to work. Maybe I just want to hit the lottery. Right?
Yeah.
How important do you all believe it is for anyone who's listening, who they are in the midst of a transition or thinking about making a transition? How important is education, coaching support, etc., in making that transition successful? How important would you say that is?
No, that's very important. For me, with the specific industry I was in, like with the food truck industry, it's like just because I had the love for cooking, right, I couldn't just say like, oh, I'm going to go get a wing truck. And you have like a Coleman's and Uncle Remus and all of these places. I mean, you can do it, right? But the thing is, it's like you want to, I picked a niche that I knew no one was in because I did the research, right? So when I researched like carnival treats, specifically the things that I offer, and specifically to the live dessert stations, because that's what I started with. Like the closest competition with that, I want to say was in Texas. It was these girls in Texas. And then later on, it was somebody like in Florida. Even to this day, it's only one other truck that's similar to mine, and he got his after me because he saw my truck. And so, during the pandemic, he literally went out and got a donut truck. He had a funnel cake truck and went out and got a donut truck. But mine is all encompassing. But anyway, you definitely have to do that research ahead of time to see like, you know, what's the competition? Like, is it oversaturated? And the thing is, if it's oversaturated, it's not that you can't do it, but you have to figure out, okay, what's going to make me stand out, from the competition or whatever. And then also going back to what Nicole said earlier, you have to envision where you want to be. It's not where you at now, but where do I want this to go? What do I see? What's the light at the end of the tunnel, for this business and where I want it to go? And so if you take the time and research it and map it out, then, the sky's the limit as far as where you could go.
Okay, now what about for you, Nicole? Because when you think about executive coaching, there is a pathway. I don't know if coaching is saturated by the numbers, right? Because, we see the numbers, and, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry now, and it's growing. So for you, like what books did you read, or what was your process for training and education to make that transition?
Like you said, there was a path. So going to learn how to be a coach, which is different than I think we think coaching is, right? It's different. I did HR informational interviews with HR folks to just understand, like, why would you make the investment, and what's best practices when you think about partners that you've had before. What are the things of your great partners, like what are the things that you really enjoyed in that partnership? And so I would ask people like you to give me feedback. And then to your point, it's just like, well, how do I, in this market that feels saturated, or there's just a lot of coaches, how do I stand out?
Right.
And I remember you and I talked about it's like, well, one, I've been an executive before, but there's also not a lot of black coaches, and there's not a lot of black female coaches.
Right.
And so again, it's just like what's for you is
it's for you.
It's for
Yeah,
you.
it's
So
for
it doesn't
you.
matter
Yeah.
like how many people are in there.
There are
That's what you're meant
sisters
to
looking
do.
for a Nicole.
Yes. The
there's no
majority of
doubt.
my clients are black women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, Sonia, you have a new venture, which is around entrepreneurship education.
Yes.
And so you want to tell us a little bit about that? Because I'm sure somebody right now is like, okay, I'm inspired. I've been thinking about this. This is what I want to do. And you currently have an opportunity for anyone who wants to learn how to get into, in particular, the entertainment mobile industry. You want to share a little bit about that with us and how they can find out more?
Sure. So my new baby, it seems like I birthed some now. I'm on a roll, right? So
multiple children. Entrepreneurs have multiple. I know I got multiple children.
Yes,
right?
yes. I feel like, I don't know, sometimes I'm just like, I get to the point and I'm like, am I ever going to get to the point where I'm like, okay, enough.
You will.
You know what I mean? Like, cut it off, whatever. But anyway, I'm an entrepreneur, always been an entrepreneur, and I just have the love and passion for anyone that is out to start a new business, because it's definitely not, easy, right?
So, money. Who wants to start first? This is, and by the way, you can share what you know. You don't got to go into all your details and things like that. But just generally, let me ask this question: has it been worth it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. They didn't study y'all.
Listen, it's definitely been worth it.
Sure.
I would just, one thing in general is the mobile entertainment industry, whether it's food truck, game truck, any of those. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry that I don't think people are necessarily aware of. One thing about it, it's really not a situation where it's one customer at a time, right? Mm-hmm. Because you're doing large events, whether it's a festival or even if it's a catering event. If it's a catering event, it's for corporations a lot of times where they have big dollars and big budgets. If it's a festival, think about it. It's like thousands or more people at this festival where you go in, you lock in, and it's like, don't get me wrong, you're going to work hard, but when you go home and go to sleep at night, you're going to be paid well.
So tell me, what's like the lowest cost product that you have right now on your truck?
The lowest cost product I have is probably about $8, $9, and that's for like a bag of mini donuts.
So hold on. Okay. You doing some math all day?
It's probably like, that is a lot of donuts, okay?
So, you're making money.
Yeah. My overhead as far as my product specifically, like the mini donuts as an example, there is, it's pennies pretty much. You know what I'm saying? Now, don't get me wrong, it's overall overhead, but as far as
you have employees, et cetera, things like that.
But as far as my specific products, mini donuts, funnel cakes, things like that, like the profit margin is very high. And so,
And what is what is your profit margin?
So I would say, like on a bag of mini donuts, if I'm charging, if I'm charging $8 and $9, people gonna be coming up to the truck like, But if I'm
No, they can't do that. I mean, here's the
right.
thing. I mean, I think we all get, like, just because you know the profit margin on
Yes,
most things that
yes.
we get. Most of us have some level of an idea, right?
Yes,
We know when
yes.
we go to a car dealership that there's a markup.
Right. For sure.
I mean, so what you gonna do?
Right,
Not gonna
right.
buy cars? I
Right.
mean, yeah.
But it's the time and the effort, people, and the love.
And the love.
Okay? And the
And
love.
the love, yeah.
And it's a great product. But basically on a bag of mini donuts, if I'm charging $8 or $9, I'm definitely getting, $6, $7 off of it. So if I'm charging $9,
Yeah.
it's only like $2,
Got
to
you.
produce it.
Yeah,
and
so
that's
I
it,
mean
and the
about
rest is profit.
almost 75%.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's
For sure.
solid.
Yeah.
But
So-
I mean, again, you do have, and I think people have to understand this too. Like in business, you have expenses. You got to pay the employees. You got to
Yes.
put gas in that truck.
Listen,
Gotta
the
maintain
gas
the truck.
prices, it was like, oh my God. Like when they went
Yeah.
up to fill up the truck, at this point, it was like $150 to fill the food truck up. So, and I run off a generator. Yeah. So,
You diesel?
No, not diesel. That's regular gas.
God bless you.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's regular gas. No,
bless
that's
you.
regular gas.
Woo wee.
Yeah, yeah.
So Nicole, you're in a bit of a, like, you and I are in similar industries, and so we were kind of chatting about this over the
Yeah.
break. Like, we don't have that same overhead
Right.
that Sonia may have.
Right.
So for you, you said, like, yes, it was worth it. It was absolutely worth it. And again, as a fellow former corporate executive, I also know how gut wrenching and like, because it's like, how can I make this kind of money? Like, again,
Right.
by myself. And many times people are like, are you, I mean, did you have anybody who was like, girl, you sure?
Yeah, like one or two people.
Okay.
For the most part, I think there was a couple things. One thing that you said to me early on, and I share with my clients, and you were like, Nicole, my coach told me the same thing. It's like, don't get bullied by the how.
Yeah.
Right? Don't get bullied by the how,
That's
because
true.
it really was when, okay, I say out loud I want to be a coach, I want to start my own business, but then it's like, well, how do I do it?
Yeah.
How do I make a living? How do I, you just
Yep.
get to, and of course it's like the way you work through that is like you get clarity through action. And it's really just about taking one step at a time.
Yeah.
What does it reveal to you? Okay, now you can take two more steps in this direction. So it's just like recognizing, like, don't get bullied by the how. Just the action creates the clarity. And then, just from a pricing perspective, it's just like when I came out that first year, like I had revenues that had already exceeded my income.
Yeah.
And that was like in the first year. And the other thing too, though, is that I was thoughtful about this, and so I didn't just jump and not have
Right.
money in the bank. Like I had money in the bank.
Yeah.
And so it was just kind of like
Yeah.
I had wiggle room to just say, okay, if I have to build up this first year to build my clientele, it's not like we're not going to be able to pay our bills.
Right.
And my husband
Right.
had been telling me for a long time, just quit, you'll figure it out. No, I was
Right,
nervous
right.
about
Yeah.
it, right? You have that you get that check every 2 weeks, and then you just get to the point where it's just like, all right, let me trust myself, let me trust God. I've got more to offer. What was important to me from a values perspective is like I was chasing freedom. So it's like freedom of how I spend my time, how I serve people, how I work, where I work, all those different things. And so it was just like I just trusted that the money would come, and it's just like it does. Yeah,
Yeah.
it does.
Yeah.
I just get just a bunch of referrals, and I don't even have to do a lot of business development. And we go on vacation, bills are paid, money is saved,
Yeah, yeah.
tuition is paid, like all of that. You just, and I really, honestly, I didn't miss a beat.
When you look back on it and you think about like the fear for both of you all in making the transition, like how happy are you that you took the leap? Like how happy are you that you took that leap?
I mean, I'm excited that I took the leap. It's funny, I was listening to Nicole, and she was like, I had money in the bank, and boop, boop, boop. Baby, that was not my story, okay? I started Decadent Flavor with a $1,200 credit card, and that's because that's all the bank would give me at the time because my credit was jacked, okay? And so to go from that to where I am now, it's like, whoo, Jesus, I thank you, okay? But at the time, it was very hard, It's funny because you said, too, your husband was like, in the beginning, he was the one that questioned it. And I know my husband was like, you have been an amazing hairstylist, and you want to do what now? You know, I'm sure it was
like,
those.
What's going on?
Right.
Yeah.
Like, is she having a midlife? You know, what's happening? You know, and so, but fast forward to now, it's like it was absolutely worth it. Was it hard? It was definitely hard. You know, it was a huge transition period, you know, going through it at the time. But looking back, it's like I would absolutely do it again. It was definitely the best move, you know, I could have made. And I know it was from God because look how it turned out. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I know I did the right thing. Yeah.
And it's not just the money that you get out of it, right? Like, it really is freedom. And so what is the value to me? There is a quantifiable value to me from a freedom perspective, that I don't have to commute, that I could design my day the way that I want to design it, that I could serve people the way that I want to deserve it. So money is a big piece of it, but there's this peace of mind. Yeah. This, you know, this stepping into this life that I want to live at this point in my life, like all that, like there's value.
Here we go. How important is it to have a laser-like focus on your true purpose, mission, and vision, and staying disciplined in that in your overall success? Like, how important is that?
No, that's very important. That's actually why I'm starting this new business venture. Like, you know, Decadent Flavor is definitely still me, you know, making people happy through food, right, basically. But I feel like your purpose is supposed to be connected to you specifically, like helping someone, you know what I mean? Like pouring back into other people. And so that's why this new business venture with the mobile entertainment industry and just helping other entrepreneurs kickstart their businesses and everything is so important to me, because I feel like that is a part of my purpose. It's me helping myself plus other entrepreneurs become more knowledgeable and fully live. Yeah. So I feel like, it's very important, extremely important. And even it's funny because my daughter, she is in high school now, picking out different, you know, her career path, where she want to go. And she was like, hey, should I take this entrepreneurs class? And I was like, what makes you want to do that? You know? And so she was like, well, you know, I see you. And she was like, so she wants to be a software engineer. And she was like, but, you know, I'll go down that road, but I can be, you know, have my own company, you know? And that made me so happy, basically, because it's like, obviously she see that through what I am doing as an entrepreneur, and not you could go be a software engineer because they make money.
Right.
You know,
Period.
Right. But to own the company is just like a whole different
level.
Exactly. But for her to have that mindset at 15, I feel like, okay, I'm doing something
Go
right.
ahead,
you
Mama.
know, this is
Love
good
it.
stuff.
Love it.
So look, I'm excited. She gonna take care of me, you know.
Yep. And what about you, Nicole? You shared a little bit about the freedom and all those things, but in alignment with your purpose, like how is it important staying like focused on that in particular for you and your business?
It's super important. And I think for me, it's like my purpose gives me courage because it's I've never done a lot of this stuff before. I am uniquely designed to do it, so I remind you. So when I get a little nervous, I'm like, "You're supposed to be here, so don't worry about it."
Yes.
But I can say to myself, "Don't worry about it. Don't panic. You'll figure it out," because it's my purpose that gives me courage. So it's like, you're supposed to do this. You are uniquely designed to do this, Nicole. So you'll figure it out, right? And so it's really thinking about, okay, so how do I? Okay, so now that I have that, now that I know that I'm supposed to serve folks in this way, all right. So how do I do more of it, and how do I scale? But, you know, it gives me the courage to fuel the things that I want to do.
Got it. 88% of all millionaires in North America are entrepreneurs. 88%. Wow. And then people are like, okay, who's this other 12%?
Right.
Those are C-suite.
Oh, sure.
Like the 12% that are working jobs that are millionaires,
right.
Those are C-suite executives.
Wow.
That's pretty much how that goes.
Right.
Now, there might be a few, they didn't say this in the article, but there might be a few millionaires, like, you know, the folks who, like, at the company, they got equity and they were sweeping, but they were there and they got equity, and then it sold, and then he became a millionaire. You got a few of those, but, I mean, that's probably like 1 or 2% of that 12%.
Right.
That happens to. How was, like, imagine being that person.
Wow.
Like you just happen to sweep the right floors.
Right.
Yeah.
You just got all
Amazon
that equity.
stock, that Apple stock or something.
Right. But other than that, the majority of entrepreneurs in the United States of America are not the majority of millionaires in the United States of America are entrepreneurs, not the other way around. And I think in terms of taking the leap, not that we're going for millions, right?
But we can.
But we can.
Right.
But I'm saying, like, sometimes it's just about doing your work.
Right.
And providing for your family.
Right.
And I want people to know that that's possible.
Right.
And one of the things I heard you say, Nicole, it's possible to do with a different level of freedom and peace
Yes.
than what you will have often working inside of a corporation or any job that you're working in, where they have so much control over your schedule and what you do.
Right.
And I say this all the time on the show, you guys know this. When you're an entrepreneur, you don't have to ask people for raises.
Right.
No, you don't.
Right.
You don't have to ask. You be like, I think I'd like to upgrade my lifestyle. And then, if you're
Go
willing
do
to
it.
put the work in,
That's
Yeah,
right.
you go
That's
do
right.
it.
then you go do it
That's right.
and make that happen. That's another beauty of entrepreneurship. Okay.
The control, I think, is really important. When I think
Yeah.
about my clients, they don't have control. They don't have control of their time. They don't have control of their calendars. And just this entrepreneurship, just the control that we have over our time and our schedule is great.
Yeah, and I want to reiterate, because if anyone's just joining, if you're just joining the show, one of the questions I asked the lady was about research.
Right.
Like, what research did you do before taking the leap?
Right.
And I think it's, we're talking about taking the leap, but we're not talking about jumping blind.
No,
Right.
not at all.
Because
Yes.
don't say, hey, I listened to the show,
Right.
Linnell, I took the leap and I landed in a patch.
Right.
It's kind of like,
Yeah.
no, we're talking about taking a well planned,
Right.
strategic,
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
thoughtful,
Correct.
educated
Yes.
leap.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Knowing that, like, I knew when I moved into coaching, I knew there weren't many African American male coaches.
Yeah. Right.
And the few that I knew were retiring, like they were leaving. And they told me, they're like, brother, like, this is like, man, that the world is your oyster, because anybody that wants a black man likely gonna be coming to you, because there ain't that many.
Right.
And so I knew that I just had to do the work. I
Right.
had to develop my business, et cetera. But I knew long term there would be some level of success from the research and conversations I had with other people who were doing the work. Same way that you did.
Yeah.
And I just really want to reiterate that
Yes.
to
Yes.
anyone listening. So let's talk a little bit, with business. I got some more stats here. And one of the other stats that I downloaded for the show is that in their lifetime, about 30% of people will actually change, like completely change or transition fields. But what's interesting is, as of November of 2021, coming out the pandemic, 43.1 million Americans quit their jobs to become entrepreneurs. And I think about that, right? So the United States of America is what, 330 million people? And so when you say 43 million, that's a substantial amount of people who are now like moving into roles of entrepreneurship. Now, I had this philosophy, this particular theory. This is maybe, I was still in corporate America, because I did a whole presentation on it to my executive team, because they were wondering why in retail in particular, it seems like they can never hit their numbers. Like, most retail companies are struggling. And it's almost like they don't realize they're struggling. Even with the CEOs I support today, I'm like, well, you're struggling because
Right.
of the micro economy.
Right.
You are the macro economy, and that worked really well through
Right.
the industrial evolution.
Yeah.
Then the internet came along, and just think about right now how you all are telling people to contact you. You're not giving them a phone number. Like years ago, it would have been an 800 number,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Which is like, think about how hard
Right.
that is for a company. Like, I got to get an 800 number. I got to have receptionists answer the
Yes.
phone. I
Bricks
have
and
all these
mortar.
different things to do just to be in business. Where now today you're like, decadentflavor.com,
Yes, yes, yes.
right?
Yes.
Inspirationalperspective.com.
Yes.
Linnell Harris. I mean, we have our names like njsconsultinggroup.com,
Right.
right? So very easy to run business. And because it's so easy to run business, and I think this is a really important show because so many people have ideas. And what will happen, this is my prediction, right? And for those of you all who listen to my predictions, not to, toot my own horn, but I'll be on point.
I'm normally right.
Don't I be on point?
Yes.
Don't I be on point, right? Okay, here's my prediction. That with the rising levels of interest rates, capital becoming more and more expensive for companies to get so they can expand, right? So think of that by itself. That makes business in corporate America difficult.
Yeah.
And you and I in particular, we're working with these organizations. Right. We see it. I see budgets drying up.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is as a consultant and a coach, it's not necessarily me that they're getting rid of. They're getting rid of the people that work in the company.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
So they're like, hey, Linnell, we're going through it. We need you to come in and support because we just laid off. So can you come in and support us or train us and help us to transition and how to handle change?
Right.
And I'm like, wow, like how many people got laid off? But I believe more of that's coming. And the reason why is because of Sonia and Nicole. It's their fault. Because they are creating, was my fault too, because we've created a microeconomy.
Yes.
And in this microeconomy, I no longer have to go into Target for my donuts.
Right.
And let's think about this, right? Because I get my donuts from Sonia. And Target, when they were running their numbers, they didn't account for Sonia.
Right.
They didn't say that, Sonia got a food truck now. And so that means that in the areas where she is, we're no longer going to be selling these products the way we used to sell them. They didn't account for that.
At all.
So then when they get hit, and you just look at these investor reports, right? When they get hit at the end of the quarter and they're like, the CEOs are very eloquent because they come up with all the reasons why they didn't. But they're not saying it's microeconomics that's killing us, folks.
Right.
Let me tell you all right now. If you happen to follow the stock market and investor reports and things like that, most of them just came out this past April. Most of them are about done. For maybe a few more left, but most of them have happened this past April, right? Throughout this month. The reason these businesses are struggling is because of the microeconomy. And if you feel like you have been getting an unction, a spiritual unction to leave, listen to it. Because you don't know what God is trying to tell you.
That's right.
Before it happens.
Right.
Like, hey, go ahead and begin making this transition.
Yes.
And I believe the Spirit is always faithful, and this show is for somebody. I just have to say this, right?
Absolutely.
Especially since Walter said I got a ministry.
Right.
Yes.
Let me go ahead and minister, right?
You do. That's right.
Right?
Yes,
Right.
yes.
Somebody needed to hear this show and know that it's time to take the leap because your security is not in these corporations. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
A change is not coming. It has come.
Yes.
When you see a number like 43.1 million Americans quitting their jobs to join the microeconomy, that's where the money's going. Sonia.
No, I think to your point, basically, I feel like during a pandemic, people realize that life is too short to be unhappy. It's so many people that are stuck in careers and they've been over it a long time ago, right?
A long time ago.
And then when the pandemic happened, a lot of people was just uncertain, like, okay, what is about to happen to us, right, as a whole? And, they just said, like, you know what, if not now, then when?
Yeah.
And they made the decision, like, hey, I'm going to do it now. And then also, I always use this as the best example. You know how at the beginning of the year, and I'm saying it's like I ever worked in corporate America, but I haven't. This is just how I know how it goes. At the beginning of the year, it's like the numbers come in from, what they made the previous year. And they're like, oh, we are so grateful to you guys. We're going to give you this 2% bonus, and we've made millions of dollars, but we're going to give you this 2% bonus, take it and be happy, basically. Right. And thank you for making us millions. And so as a CEO and entrepreneur, you're saying that about your own company that you have spent your time, sweat, and tears building and saying, oh, look what we did, last year. Look how much we made last year, and what are we going to do this year? So you're investing in yourself, your own legacy, and your family's legacy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that. Wow, I love that. Nicole, any thoughts on that person that is, looking to take that leap? What words would you have for them?
What's interesting is I remember my own experience. I knew my next step was to lead my own company. The thing that I was not clear on was when. Mm. And I kept saying, I just need a sign from God. I just need a sign from God. I don't even know what that sign is. And I remember you and I talked. We be talking I have found that you and I talk at the right moment. Even before, I had already made the decision to leave, and I remember somebody called and offered me a job, and I don't even know why you called. And I was just like, oh my God, Lynell, I was, freaking out, like I just made this commitment, and you called. You get those, as my friend Melanie says, these God winks,
yes,
right?
Yes.
And I was just like, here go Lynell. Now he gonna tell me something that's gonna get me right. Okay, good.
Yes.
But I just kept saying I wanted to sign, and you and I had talked. I think we had a scheduled conversation because you were mentoring me, and you were like, well, Nicole, I just declared a date, and, I just said August such and such, I'm going to do it. I was like, I feel like I've done that, Lynell. I don't know. I'm just still waiting. And later on that day, I talked to another friend of mine. I said, I'm just waiting for a sign. And she said, well, what does a sign look like to you? And I was like, ooh. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, I kind of just said if I had a $25,000 corporate contract, I just kind of came up with this arbitrary thing. Mm-hmm. And so when I said that, it caused me to zoom out. And I saw that God had already shown me a sign because I had more than that, just not in one contract, right? So I'm looking for this kind of one thing, and all these things are kind of coming my way. So I guess what I would invite people to think about is that it's likely you've already gotten your sign. Yeah. You feel discomfort for a reason because God expects more from you, but He's waiting to do your part. Yeah. He'll do the rest, but He's waiting for you to do your part. And so a lot of times we're just waiting for the sign. Well, the sign is partly the idea that you get and the energy that you get around the idea, the way in which whatever this gift that you have, I'm engaging with Sonia. She's like, girl, that made a difference, right? Like that is your sign. And so it's like we're looking for something, this billboard or whatever it is, and it's just like what we need to do is pay attention to what's already going on.
I love that.
And then lean into that.
I love that. So for you, Sonia, what would you say to someone?
So I would say a lot of times, people just let fear, get in the way. It's the biggest distraction. It's the biggest, roadblock, that you have. I definitely had it. But a coach recently told me to do it afraid. And that's something that I realized I guess I've always done. You know what I mean? When I started my hair career, I had the luxury of being in high school and still in my parents' home, right? But once I started, Decadent Flavor, I didn't have that same luxury, right, of doing it. So it was so many things that came into play as to reasons that I could have had to say, oh, no, don't do it. Oh, no, it's not the right time. Even I remember in 2020, that's when I opened up my brick and mortar location. And the guy called me, the landlord, and he's like, hey, I have the location available. And I was like, no, now is not the right time because it was during the pandemic. It was so many unknowns. Yeah. And then I pondered over it for like a couple of days, and I was like, but why not now? Mm-hmm. It was like you said, like I could afford it. You know what I mean? Like everything was there. So it was like, okay, Sonia, give me some reasons why you can't do it right now. And I didn't have any. So I opened it up. Was I afraid? Absolutely. But it's like, a lot of times with me, I would be so fearful of doing things, and I just literally step out and take that leap of faith because I know God got my back, and He's never failed me. And it's like I go through all this fear, and then literally I look up, and it always works out. Always. So I would definitely say to just, do it afraid. Like, don't let your mind trick you out of something that could be the best thing that has ever happened to you.
Can I say this too, Sonia? Because I remember you called me about that particular opportunity.
Yes.
And I'm not big on brick and mortar. I think I told you that.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I don't know if you want to ask me.
Yeah.
But one of the questions I did ask is like, what do you believe you should do?
Yeah.
And I think all too often Like, because you could say, well, Linnell told me not to. Or Linnell's not a fan of that. And I respect him, his business. And this is where, I think on a very personal level, even for me, when I told my mother I was leaving corporate America, and I really respected what my mother had to say. She was like, son, I ain't never really got into your business.
Yes.
But
Mama got something to say.
But, you leaving that job, boy.
Yes.
And it's like, you know what, Mama? I love you, and I know what God is telling me to do, right? And I think that's a really important, because sometimes people will, and I know if somebody calls me and says, does this make business sense? I'm going to tell you what I believe in terms of my business knowledge.
Right.
That doesn't mean that you're not supposed to do it.
Right.
We have to follow our own guide. And I think that's really important. I want to bring that out, because one of the things I know about you, Sonia, like, you are good at that. Yeah. You are good, and we've had plenty of conversations where you're like, okay, but I disagree. And you go, and you have gone and done what you needed to do, and been incredibly successful with that.
Yeah. And I mean, you just have to kind of, I'm definitely the person, I ask a lot of opinions of people, that I respect or whatever, and trust for sure. And so for me at the time, of course, as a business owner, you have to look at the overhead and all that, because I know that's the standpoint, that you were looking at it. But also for me, it's like, I literally had all of this equipment in my home, and I needed to separate
your piece.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Can't
it
put a
is
price on
it
that.
is so much peaceful to just be able to separate it. And then I had a whole big food truck sitting in my driveway, okay? And it had to go. You know what I mean? So now it's like, people do like, oh, she's the food truck owner that stay down the street on the corner. You know what I mean? And so, because now listen, I'm going to tell you, in Chicago, y'all can't get away with that. But I stay out in Indiana, and it's not the same rules. But anyway, I had to basically separate my business life, from my home life or whatever. And so, for me, it was definitely a great move. And you have to figure out, too, how that location can make money for you, right? And so, like, I have the commercial kitchen that other entrepreneurs can, like, rent out or whatever. So it can definitely make money, for me. As well. So it was a leap of faith, but even with that, it was a leap of faith. It was more overhead or whatever, but it was definitely the best decision for me.
Great.
Got it.
I think a couple comments that I heard in what both of you all said. One thing I would encourage people is to not let other people's relationship with risk
that's huge.
drive your decision making.
That's huge.
Right?
Yeah.
So other people's fears, other people, the way they feel about risk. Like what I heard you all both say is, I had to step out because other people were giving me their opinions out of love. However, that was representative of their relationship with risk and their
risk
fears.
aversion.
Yeah. And so I think that's really important. I think in addition to the mindset component, we need somebody to help us build a strategy.
Right.
So,
Yes.
having a coach to help you really think about, okay, I know I'm ready to do this, so help me with the mindset piece, and then also help me put a strategy together and hold me accountable to doing it. So that way you get out of your head, and then you can actually have somebody to be your partner.
With coaching, the coach doesn't have an opinion, right? You like, here's what I want to do. This is what I want to build. I need support building it. And the coach's job is to show you where you're getting in your own way, to ask you powerful inquiry questions that make you think deeper through what it is that you're doing. I know often Sonia will call me and she was like, I don't need Linnell, I need the coach. Right. Or I don't want the coach, I want Linnell.
Right.
That's what she'll say. Like she's like I'm
making
like,
a distinction.
Right. I'm like, I want to make a clear distinction about the kind of advice I want. Like, what does Linnell Harris think? Right. I'm like, oh, okay.
Right.
Like from a coach hat, I'm gonna be like, well, what do you think?
Real natural.
Do you believe? Are you aligned? Right? Like, it's like, I'm not going to tell you what I think.
Right.
Because as a coach, and I'm sure you would share the same thing, I've seen people build and create things that when they told me about it, I had to work through my own stuff. Right? Like, you want me to support you doing what?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Right. And I'm like, Linnell, put your stuff away.
Right.
It ain't about you. It's
Right.
about them.
Right.
Right. Which a good coach can do that.
Right.
And then when they build it, you like, well, wow.
You did
right.
that. Yes.
But that's the beauty of integrity. And you talked about that, Nicole. Like them operating in their own integrity, and what other people think it doesn't matter.
Right.
What matters is what you think.
Yeah.
Right.
But I will say this too, because you are a coach. You like this may not make sense, but speaking with me not being a coach, like I feel like, you know, the coaches definitely help you to just get focused, number one, and just go into the right direction. Like if you're, you know, kind of teeter-tottering, trying to figure things out, then they definitely help you to just get clear focus and direction. You know, Linnell has been my coach. We worked together, was it 2 years ago at this point?
It
was pre-pandemic, right?
Pre-pandemic.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's been longer or whatever.
Pre-pandemic, like 2018, 2019.
Yeah. And so I'm gonna tell you guys, once we stopped working together, I was okay for a little while, you know what I mean? And then I reached out like, hey, we gotta get this back going, you know what I mean? Because I mean, literally the focus, you know, it's about just focusing, zoning in, tuning in, or whatever, getting those goals, declaring things. Like I definitely learned that all from you for sure.
I appreciate it. And I've learned a lot from you, Sonia. Like, and I would say that if there's anybody, that it's one of the reasons with the show like this, I was like, okay, who are two people who have taken leaps?
Yeah.
Like really taken leaps and run with it.
Yeah.
And I mean, you take leap after leap after leap, and I admire that. Like your ability to go for it. Like you go for it, and then you don't just like, because we're talking about taking the leap, but you also hit the ground running.
Yes.
Right? You don't like just, you know, land and go, oh, well, it's not all here in the place spot that I landed. Like
Right.
you will run after it. Same thing with you, Nicole. And I really do admire that about
Thank you.
Yeah. Like, how important is reinvesting in your business now that you all are, you know, solidly placed entrepreneurs with businesses that are taking care of yourselves and your families and making a contribution in your life and other people's lives? How do you handle reinvesting into your business?
I think for me, it's really around what's going to help me grow and scale. And so this year, I hired an attorney. I hired a business coach to really help me from a financial perspective, to really understand my pricing, investing in conferences to build my talents, investing in people, right? You know, getting a VA, right? A virtual assistant to help take off the things off my plate that just aren't my zone of genius. And so I just see it as something strategic, and it's necessary in order for me to grow. Otherwise, I'm going to stay stagnant.
That's right.
And so it's like if I have ambitious goals, and I've got to think about, well, what are my strategic investments that I need to make this year in order to help my business grow? And then there's always the ROI, right? I'm measuring and I'm anticipating the ROI. I can point to, okay, I did this, and it enabled me to do this. Sometimes it's something that is quick and impactful, and then other times it's something along the line that just had slower impact, but it was the right thing to do because it was strategic and it was thoughtful.
Yeah.
Got it. What
No,
about
and
you,
even
Sonia?
going off what you just said, it's kind of like sometimes you plant seeds in the business or just in life, period, right? And you plant those seeds one year, but you see them grow, you know what I mean, into what they supposed to be, you know, the next year or even in years to come. But no, you definitely have to invest, you know, in the business and invest in yourself, you know, definitely hiring a life coach or, you know, business consultant or any of those things is also always important. Also, basically in business, you know, to grow the business, you know, it can be a lonely road. So you need that team, that support system, you know, to help you, whether it's a virtual assistant or, you know, any of those things. Like last year, I scaled a lot in that way. I kept hearing scale. I think I might have scaled too fast, but that's another topic and conversation for a different show. But basically, you have to have that help, you know. So for me, even this year, I'm looking for like a manager, you know, to take my place because I'm like, okay, I can't, you know, run myself into the ground. I need that help, and I want to be able to enjoy my family, enjoy my kids, and not always have to be present, you know, in the business. So I'm looking for 2 managers. Okay, I'm putting it out there, 2 managers or whatever for Decadent Flavor.
I love it.
You know, but yeah, getting that manager, getting that assistant, you know, just getting that team members, you know, to help you. I have a human resource person. Shout out to Crystal Payton, my human resource person.
Hey.
So, yeah, you just have to build that team basically to keep you going. And then also on top of that, it's like figuring out what you could keep doing with the business. Like I started out and I did the live dessert stations, right? Then I moved on in 2019, I got the food truck. Then in 2020, you know, I got the brick and mortar location. So now it's just like, okay, what's next for Decadent Flavor? So you have to keep evolving, keep adding things on. You want to stay the topic of people's conversations, right? But how can you do that? You have to do it by keep on investing in your business and saying what's next. You know, you're your biggest competition. No one else is out there. So what can I do to improve myself to make my business better?
I love that you said that too, because it is an iteration process. Like how I started, every year I'm learning something different. I've expanded new services, and so I think that's a really great thing to point out, is that you're going to iterate as you grow, as you go, because you're going to learn and you're going to grow. You're going to have a different perspective, and so people should anticipate that before they come out. That the way you come out is likely not how it's going to be 2 and 3 years from now, and that's okay. That's an indication of your growth and the growth of your business.
So Sonia, whatever your revenues are, I'm a CEO of a large corporation, and I come in, I say, hey, I'll pay you 4 times your annual revenue to come work for me. What do you do?
So honestly, for me, it's not even something I have to really consider. I think I shared that I've never had a regular job. So,
but I'm gonna pay you. Hold on now. I'm gonna pay you 4 times.
Okay.
Your annual revenue.
Okay.
If you come work for me, yes or no?
For me, it's gonna be a solid no.
4 times?
It's gonna be a solid no.
4 times?
Listen, my husband said he don't think I could have a regular job, you know. And I'm gonna be honest. Like I've always, I'm used to that freedom. You understand me? Because I've never had a regular job, so I've never had someone to say, "Oh, you have to be here at this time, and this is what you have to do." And also, too, from even learning from all of you guys that worked in corporate America, you know, those big bucks comes with big responsibilities and a lot of stress. Okay. And I feel like if I'm going to be stressed, I might as well be stressed about something that I'm building for me and create a legacy for myself and my kids.
Okay. Nicole.
So, yeah.
Same question.
Same question. But
it would be no.
It would be no.
Yeah, and I think it's because in my mind, I can grow my business for a time the current revenue.
There you go.
And so it's like, I don't need that today because that's where I'm going.
Because that's where I'm going to be.
Right, because that's where I'm going to be.
That's where I'm going to be.
You might get there quicker. Yeah, but it's the price I'm going to have to pay to get there.
That's
so
right.
It's like, I like what you're talking about. That number is really good and attractive, but I can do that myself. I trust myself that I can do it myself.
Yeah. It's kind of like selling your soul. Like, what I got to do for this money, huh? Right. I don't think I
love it. I love it. Hey, well, look, thank you all so much for being on the show today, sharing your wisdom, and sharing so open and vulnerably with the audience. I really do appreciate it. I believe they got something from it. I'm already getting great shows in the Facebook feed. I'm sure many of those out in Radio Land enjoyed it as well. Man, I appreciate you guys for listening. And to the person or to the people that you know it's time to take a leap, I think these sisters will say with me, jump.
Yes, let's go.
Jump.
Let's do it.
Jump. Hey, my inspired peoples. Linnell Harris here, certified ontological coach and trainer. I'm so excited that you're watching the channel. By the way, did you know you can catch the show live at 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. every Sunday morning? You can. All you have to do is go to my Facebook stream, Coach Linnell Harris, catch the stream live, or you can listen to the radio show via iHeart at WVON 1690 AM. But since you're here, if you love the content, I ask that you share it, like this particular video, and subscribe to the channel. I hope you're having a great day.